Hello, my friends. My name is Thad Riley, and this is episode number 226 of the Thadcast. But in case you're joining me here today on the YouTube for the first time, because there was no other first time. This is the first time actually the Thadcast has been broadcast on the YouTube platform, and it's probably about time that we kind of dipped our toe in this water. Actually, I'm not really into dipping my toe into anything. I just kind of do the full plunge right off like the top, the high dive, and we just kind of go head first into stuff. So here we are on YouTube, and this is going to be interesting because apparently there won't really be any more editing for the Thadcast because first of all, it just wouldn't work. Okay, so I would have to edit in Audacity, which is the software that I use for the Thadcast, which is my podcast for YouTubers, which goes out over iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and a bunch of other folks. And now we have YouTube, and so I'd have to go in and video edit. Guys, this is so beyond me, guys and ladies. It's just too much beyond me. So we're just going to just do this everything in one take. And we were just doing that a minute ago, except I got halfway through this episode, almost halfway there, and the poster behind me of the world, which you see on YouTube again. If you're just listening, you're not seeing this. It fell. Like half of it fell down, and I was just looking at it. I was like, well, this is really great. We can't have this on our first episode because we need everything to look perfect because my life is perfect. Everything is perfect. My relation, it's not. So let's just keep real about this whole thing. And I think that's what we do really well here on the Thadcast. We dive into subject matter. If this is your first episode, we dive into subject matter, and we just try to keep it as absolutely real as possible. So if this is your first episode with me and you want to know a little bit more about me, I live in Brentwood, New Hampshire. I'm a writer / podcaster. A couple of my books, Christmas Devotional, 25 Days with Jesus, and the other book, the big book that I wrote a couple years ago, the big book is some large volume thing. It's 240 pages, and it's called God Is For You. So that's available on Amazon, and I've sold tens of copies of it. So I'm absolutely wealthy because I'm just kidding, a little bit more than that. But it's, if you ever want to get rich, don't write a book. Don't ever write a book to get rich. It's got to be this passion, this fire, this thing inside of you that you love to do. By the way, this podcast is not brought to you by Reebok. I have a shirt on that says Reebok, and it's backwards, I think, for you guys. But it's just a shirt. It's about Ragnar Relay, and it's about life. This whole thing that we're doing here on the Thadcast is just simply about life. So we'll see how it goes here on YouTube. We'll see if anybody can stand the side of me, and we'll just go with it. Is that cool? That's cool. So I'm a follower of Jesus, and a lot about what we talk about on the Thadcast is about being a follower of Jesus, being a dad and a stepdad to 6 kids. I'm very happily married, she's awesome, to my wife Melanie. We've been married now for about 5.5 years, and what a journey it's been on. She's actually the first girl I ever kissed, if you can imagine. We just broke up for 22 years, if that's okay. And we just took a long extended break. She probably was just like, I need a couple of decades away from this guy. But now she's stuck. So she's going to have to figure that out on her own time because I'm here. And I'm a stay-at-home dad most of the time, and that's how I'm able to create content and to kind of do this whole gig that we're doing. So that's it. And I wish So if you're listening on the podcast and you're not on YouTube, take a moment and go to YouTube and just check this out for a second. You can also catch the annoying fly, which has probably buzzed me 3 or 4 times, which actually the boys were down here trying to kill the fly last night. Why would we ever use a fly swatter when we have a couple of them upstairs? The best thing to use are towels and blankets, because that's been known to be effective in not destroying half the basement. And I'm looking at a new hole in the wall. Literally, we have holes in our walls, and I can't even. We just had the basement remodeled about 3 years ago, and we spent a good chunk of change to make this into a beautiful living area, and I've got literally holes in my walls. But 6 kids, you do what you do. You don't lose your mind over holes in the walls. I talk about this with parenting. I know this is a little bit of a random episode, but such a key in life with parenting, especially being a dad and a stepdad, and then just in life in general when engaging with people. Figure out what hills you want to die on, right? Those are okay. But the other ones, get off of them, right? Major in the majors, minor in the minors. I could lose my mind over a hole in the wall when I know I have 6 rowdy kids and it's cold in New Hampshire in the winter and they're stuck inside and things are going to break and things are going to happen. And we do our best, okay? And some of y'all are sitting there like, this would never happen in my home. Okay, well, it would never happen in your home. And that's good. In our home, stuff like this happens all the time. Stuff breaks, there's a hole in the wall, and we go out and we pay for it to happen. We might make the kid pay. We made one of the kids give us like some money for a home repair that they intentionally caused when they got mad. They put their fist through a wall. Do you ever wonder like why the police don't show up at your house? Every now and then I'm like, why aren't they here? Like to take me to safety or something. That would be kind of the way to go. Anyway, so sometimes we talk about parenting here, and so my advice in parenting for the day is to look at each of your children and kind of assess and just say, which hill are we going to die on with these folks? Like, what are the most important things that I need to be majoring in right now? Because you don't want to be over here dealing with some issue that's really not going to matter in their whole scheme of their life, and you've lost your marbles over something. And it's not that important. And if the kid doesn't understand even why it's important, then you got a whole other problem there. And neglect the big things. I think sometimes as parents, we don't know how to have those conversations. I never had a father who showed me how to have those conversations. True story. The sex talk with my dad, I was in 2nd grade, and he was chairman of the school board of Dayton Christian Schools. And we had a show that night, and it was we did like Bible characters, and I dressed up as Samson, and I had like a toga on, and we went out there on stage, and I remember, I am Samson, big and strong, and this whole deal. So anyway, so we went back to our classroom, and our parents were supposed to come in. We were supposed to be seated at our desk after the play, and our parents would come in, and they would do this tour of our room, and we would give them a tour of the room. Well, while they were in the hallway, I'm just sitting there, and like any 2nd grader, how do I do with free time when I'm just supposed to be sitting there? Right, horrible, it's a mess. I decided to play with phonetics and play with some words. And the word of the day, or the last 3 letters of the day, were uck. You can see where this is going here. Mind you, Dayton Christian School. So I said A uck, B, buck, that's a good word. C, cuck, E, yuck. D, duck. What's next? Oh, I did the E and D wrong, sorry. Alphabeting. Oh, and we can't edit, so you just think I'm an idiot now. And then F, oh, bro. So there I am, and I've just found my new favorite word. And not just like the greatest word I'd ever encountered randomly in my entire life. I'd never heard it before, never been exposed to it. I know, 2nd grade, you would think like something would have happened. Nah, I mean, we didn't even have cable television. We had the rabbit ears, you know. It was a controlled, you even met my mom? Yeah, controlled environment. Did you ever watch Everybody Loves Raymond? You know Marie? Yeah, that's my mom. You think I'm kidding? I told my sister that, and she laughed so hard that we had to get off the phone. That was the end of our conversation when I told my sister that. So shout out to Sister Michelle. Anyway, yeah, and so I'm in there, and I'm shouting the F word, and my teacher hears it, and the parents in the hall hear it, and my dad recognizes my voice, and they come running in. So that night we go home, and I stopped to look on my parents' face. My mom looked like, you know, if we were home, it would have been like, it would have just been on like duct tape or something. I don't think she did that to me a lot though. But so anyway, we go home, and I sit in my little 2nd grade bed, and I'm in my Batman pajamas ready to go to sleep. And my dad decides he's gonna come in and make a point with the F word. And he decides to give me the most improper, pretty darn gross, a few details could have been left out or maybe added, I'm not really sure, a talk about sex. And it was like, why would anybody do that with things that they use to go to the bathroom? That was my entire thought. So sorry, we don't usually get into this kind of stuff on the Thadcast, I promise you. But I'm telling you, it was the worst talk ever. So dads, if you're out there struggling with these types of talks, Listen, you can't do any worse than my father did. And you know, he would probably, if he was still around, we'd probably laugh about it now. But that was basically the talk. So yeah, that was it. So listen, we're not just going to go on a random hiatus from what we do here at the Thadcast. I do have a scripture and an encouraging word I want to share with you today, and it's from 2 Corinthians 12. This is the Apostle Paul, and he is talking about this thing called his thorn in the flesh. And the Apostle Paul refers to this a couple of times, that he had been gifted with a thorn in the flesh. This is some type of either an injury and sickness. I've actually, from some of the reading, wondered if it wasn't a chronic case of anxiety that he could not overcome at times. And the Apostle Paul says here in 2 Corinthians 12:8, 3 different times I begged the Lord to take it away. Each time God said, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. Back to the Apostle Paul. He says, so now I am glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ can work through me. That's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in the insults, hardships, persecutions, and troubles that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And why is the Apostle Paul strong? Because God's power works best in our lives in our weaknesses. For me, I know when I'm exposed to my weaknesses, I know exactly what happens. I'm more frail. I'm more dependent. I'll pray. I'll ask God for help. I'll see and observe my need for him, to be rescued, to be encouraged, to be spoken truth to be forgiven. To be forgiven is a big one, right? To live in that repentance state of repenting of our sins and the struggles of this world. Or to just be comforted during my suffering. To be given wisdom when I'm dealing with a nightmare with the kids or with school board or something I can't figure out, right? God shows up in our weaknesses. He is strong, and he calls for us to lean on him. And that's what we can do, my friends. We can take a step back, and we can look to Jesus, as Hebrews 12:1-2 says, the author and finisher of our faith. The author and finisher is so good. I don't remember what version that is, maybe the NASB or something like that, but it says the author and finisher of our faith. You think about running a race, and I know when I run like a half marathon, and the one I ran last fall, it's totally 100,000% exhausted, beat down, ugly, just ugh. Mile 1 through 9, piece of cake. Miles 9 through 13, nightmare on a stick. But I think about that weakness and all that praying I did when I was running that race, and how I struggled to get across that finish line. And our faith works like that. And we have struggles with our faith. And these thorns in the flesh and these things that happen, and they throw us off, and we wonder what we're going to do and how we're going to come back from it all. And maybe you're sitting there right now in your house and you're saying, how am I going to come back from this? How do we even start over? Where do we start over? How does this even work anymore? My encouragement to you, my friends, is to look to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, to help us, because he is strong when we are weak. How do we look to him? Well, a couple of ways. First of all, I think we look to him by getting into the scriptures and reading the Bible. Books are great. The Bible, though, isn't like a normal book. It's God's words to us, and it speaks to our soul. So getting into the Bible is the first way to engage with God when we're dealing with our thorns in the flesh, right? I know that's what I need. And secondly, it's prayer, right? That time just spent talking to God, communing with him. He hears every one of our prayers. So I would say prayer is the second thing that we need in those moments of struggle. And then finally, community. Other people who follow Jesus, who can encourage us in the ways in which we need to be encouraged. Suffering isn't going to go away. You know, this whole COVID-19 thing isn't going to suddenly erase and lift itself out of the atmosphere. And everything's going to be okay. There will always be something else. There will always be another struggle, another battle, another fight. How we trust God and the actions that we take at this time matters so very much. And there's never been a better time to put your faith in Jesus and to give him all of those thorns in the flesh, all of those struggles, the whole mire that you've been slogging around in, trying to pull yourself out of. You know you're never supposed to pull yourself out of it alone. That's God's job. And we put our hope and trust in him. He rescues us. He's rescued me from so much. In 48 years, I can tell y'all crazy stories. Maybe we'll save some for next time. So that's my encouragement to you today, my friends, to understand that you will, like the Apostle Paul, have thorns in the flesh, have your struggles. But that Jesus is the author and finisher of our faith. He is made strong in our weakness, and we can lean in on him and experience the goodness of God and build our faith, build our hope around him and what he's doing, and not in ourselves. Because we know that story, and it doesn't work. It's not a great story. But the one with God engaged with us, that certainly is quite the story. So that's it. That's it for episode number 226 of the Thadcast and video number 1 on YouTube. Thank you so much for taking precious time out of your day to join me. As always, if you could share this with one friend, I would be so grateful and so very much appreciate that. That's what we do here. So if you share it on social media, even better. And I hope this truly blessed you today. So until next time, my friends, may you be blessed.